Hi, welcome back to the podcast. Welcome if you are new. We are excited to have you. Today we are going to talk all about arguing. Do those neurodiverse kiddos in your life like to argue? Like they live to argue. Let's talk about it. Why do they argue? What can we do about it? And how do we handle it as parents? Welcome to the Autism Diagnosis to Confident Mom podcast with Kira from Kira Brown Coaching. I'm a mom of neurospicy kids and a life coach. I'm here to share real tips and support to help you feel confident as a parent. This week, let's talk about something that came up in one of my sessions. I was talking with a mom who was really frustrated with all the arguing that happens. She was equating it to anger in her child who is neurospicy. And as we talked and I worked through this issue with her, I realized that I had not taught her these things and that not everybody understands this. So I wanted to share with all of you on the podcast today because I feel like this will be very helpful. But let's talk about that kid that just argues to argue. Do you have one of those? Does your kid live to argue? Like, it can be about anything. Screen time, bedtime. They can be hungry and you tell them to eat and they'll argue with you about it, whether they're going to eat or not. It can be about anything. This mom was experiencing it. She homeschools her child. They do an online school and they're experiencing it with schooling. It can show up in teenagers that want to have the last word. It can show up in kids who you give them a simple direction, like put on your shoes, and it turns into a 10-minute philosophical debate. And it can show up all the time, or it can show up what appears to be randomly, like off and on. And so let's talk about that. What do we do? What do we do with that? Is it an anger issue or is it something else going on? So, it's not imagined. It's real, and especially in neurospicy children. And for many ADHD and autistic kiddos, arguing isn't about defiance. It's about a dopamine hit. It feels good in their brains. So dopamine is a chemical that rewards us when we do something well. It makes us feel good. And neurodiverse children tend to not have as much dopamine naturally occurring in their brains. And so they seek it more than a neurotypical child. So let's talk about that. How does that work? What do we do with it? How do we work with it? So, like I said, dopamine is the motivation and reward chemical in our brain. When we do something good, like eat a chocolate, it gives us a little bit of dopamine. For adults, it might be drinking some alcohol. It gives us a dopamine kick, or watching Netflix. Cleaning my house once it's done will give me a dopamine hit. There's all sorts of things that give us dopamine hits. Exercising. But arguing can too, because when you argue, it's exciting and it's engaging and it increases our adrenaline and dopamine levels. So they get a dopamine hit when they argue. So they're just seeking some stimulation and they get it through arguing. You might find this to occur more often when they're bored or when they're dysregulated or if they feel powerless. They're going to look for that dopamine hit. They're going to argue and they're going to get it. And so that's why they argue more. For autistic kids specifically, it might be more about predictability and control. So if they're looking for control in a situation, if they argue with you, they're going to get some pushback. And that helps them feel in control. Even though it's a negative attention, so to say, it feels predictable to them. They know what mom's going to do. And so combine that with dopamine seeking tendencies, and the behavior can be reinforced. So as a parent, it doesn't feel good to have them argue with you all the time. It feels disrespectful. It feels exhausting. It's frustrating. You are full of self-doubt. What am I doing wrong? Why is my child so disrespectful? Why can't they just follow directions? And it's not about disrespect. It's about seeking control, stimulation, and connection, even if it's through negative attention. So just know that it doesn't mean you're a bad parent. If your child is arguing with you, it just means that their brain is working how it's designed to work. You have the motivational triad. You seek pleasure, avoid pain, and I'm drawing a blank on the third one. But when they are seeking dopamine, they're seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. And so the goal isn't to punish them for arguing. The goal is to shift from reacting to that argument to understanding and redirecting. So let's talk about how we do that. The first step I want to give you is we're going to stay out of the dopamine loop. So that means when they start arguing with us, instead of arguing back, we're just going to stay calm and be brief. So, for example, you might say, I hear you. That's your thought, but my answer stays the same. End of discussion. No more talking necessary. We don't continue to argue with them. They can't argue with us if we don't argue with them. It takes two people to argue. So if they don't get the response that they thought they were going to get, so they get the dopamine hit, it doesn't do it for them. It's not beneficial. So we're going to stay out of the dopamine loop. We're going to stay calm. This might look like, let me see if I can come up with another idea real quick. This might look like your child not wanting to put on their shoes to leave. And you just simply say, and they're like, I don't want to wear those shoes, or whatever they want to argue about, right? And you just say, the choice is yours. You can either bring them or you can wear them, but it's time to get in the car. And then walk out to the car. You're not reinforcing that dopamine loop that happens in their brain. We can offer alternate dopamine sources. When we notice that they're starting to argue a lot because they're dysregulated, and whatever, then we can offer them alternate dopamine sources. Some of those sources might be things like physical activities, humor, so laughing, making them laugh somehow, a movement break, music, or short bursts of novelty, something new, something exciting. These will all encourage their dopamine in healthy ways. We can also engage in curiosity. You can say, who can put their shoes on faster? I'm going to win. And then race them. See who gets their shoes on faster. Something else we can do is we can validate their emotions and offer them control. So you can say, I see that you really want to explain your side of the story. How about you brush your teeth and then we'll come back to it. That gives them an opportunity to still explain themselves, but they're not arguing in the moment. It creates a natural break. You're not responding to give them that dopamine hit. So another thing you can do is offer them small choices. And we kind of talked about this in the staying out of the dopamine loop. But do you want to do your homework now or in 10 minutes? That's something that you can give, right? Like just a small choice that isn't really going to matter, but you can give them control so that they can have some control in their life and predictability. And then we also need to model regulation. We need to stay calm. We need to take a deep breath before we respond. Because remember, co-regulation helps calm their nervous system. And a calm nervous system for them lowers the need for arguing. So if we can stay calm, I know it's not always easy. When they're screaming at me, arguing, my natural instinct is I want to scream back. So I have to really, really work on staying calm, taking a deep breath, reminding myself that this isn't about me. This is about them needing a dopamine hit, and how else can I do that for them? Sometimes you might need extra help with this, and that's okay. If it turns into aggression or meltdowns, or it's impacting their daily function, then you can reach out for some help. I'm always glad to help. That's what I do as a life coach. I help. Hence me educating you on this right now. I can help with emotional regulation for both you and how to teach your child emotional regulation. We can talk about communication for your child's neurotype. We can do lots of things. There's lots of strategies that I can help you with. But if you're not comfortable with that, that's fine. I'm not for everybody. There's also therapists, and there's also occupational therapy that might help depending on your child's needs. So you could do like a life coach, a therapist, occupational therapist. Occupational therapist might be helpful if it's more of a sensory issue. If they're dysregulated and you need help learning their sensory needs, occupational therapy was fantastic for us in that area. Therapy is helpful if you want your child to discuss what's going on in their brains. If you just can't figure it out and you really think there's something else going on behind the anger, then therapy might be helpful there. But if you're just looking for skills as a parent, I can help you. So that'll give you some ideas. And don't be afraid to seek help. In fact, I just signed us back up for some more help. We did really well for a while, and now we're having some more arguing and anger. And so we just signed back up for some more help professionally with my autistic kiddo. So don't be ashamed. Sometimes I think they learn better from other people than they do from their parents. I don't know. I still remember the day we sent my kid to pre-K, and I thought, oh, here we go. And he comes home saying, no, thank you. I'm like, for almost 5 years now, I've been trying to teach you to say, no, thank you. And you come home in one day saying, no, thank you. So sometimes just another person can be a great influence. So, but just remember, it's not about defiance. It's a mix of dopamine seeking, control, and connection. And us staying calm and consistent can help rewire that dynamic in their brain. And they'll learn that they can't get that dopamine hit by arguing with mom and dad. We can rewire the brain. Neuroplasticity, that's what it's called. So we can do it as adults. We can do it as children. Children do it a little more quickly, but everybody can rewire their brain. It's amazing. So just remember, it's not about you, Mom. It's not. It's about them needing some dopamine. So let's see if we can find it for them somewhere else and not give it to them in a negative way. Yeah. I would love to know what you have for your favorite calm down strategies. Send those my direction. You can DM me or email me. I'm always looking for new ways. And I would love to share new ideas to try with everybody else too. Let's help one another out. Thanks so much for listening to Autism Diagnosis to Confident Mom. If this episode helped you feel a little more seen or supported, please take a moment to like, follow, or subscribe to the podcast. And if you know another parent who needs to hear this, share it with them too. We're all in this together. You're doing better than you think, Mama. You've got this.